Looking back at the 2015 wheat crop, a lot of producers were hesitant to actually put down the nitrogen earlier on in the wheat crop. Brian, was that a good or a bad idea to either lay down the nitrogen or avoid it?
You know, David, you look back at the wheat crop and we go back in the year review, it was mixed results on what we saw. We really saw three stories coming back from last year. One is that there were fields that really did not need much nitrogen. We actually cut several with enriched strips, quarter sections that broke 80 to 90 bushel of wheat on just 50 to 60 pounds of nitrogen. While there's others, plenty of others out there that took significant amount, 2 to 2.2 pounds of N per bushel, so 160, 180 pounds of N to make that same 80 bushel crop. It was very dependent upon where you were at and what crops you were following. The enriched strips really helped us out, tell a story about high need versus low need.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're here at the Magruder plots right now. Let's kind of talk about how the soil nutrition worked here.
All right, so the harvest of Magruder plots, we have, of course, right next to us is the manure plot, which gets enough nitrogen from beef feedlot manure at one time to go for 4 years. We applied this last fall. So it had its 1 year and 4 application in this manure plot right here. It cut 60 bushel. The check, which hasn't had anything applied for over 126 years, hit 16 bushel. The fertility plots, the NPK plus lime, was still in that 55-60. So the manure this year and the NPK and lime this year basically cut the same, 55-60 bushel, and the check cut 16. You know, we go back and we use what we learned here and go into those fields that we were talking about. What we seen was those producers that got away with very little nitrogen and utilized it well were typically those that followed a poor wheat crop last year. The ones that took a lot of nitrogen, I'm talking 2.2 pounds of N per bushel, were those that followed a summer crop, a good yielding sorghum, and a good yielding corn crop. And so they really had to replenish the nitrogen, really had to tie it up. Another lesson we learned last year that we saw in small plot work, so multiple locations of small trials and farmer fields, was pre-plant nitrogen last year did us little to nothing. So multiple locations. I've got 5 or 6 studies across the state, multiple fields. The application timing turned out to be this way. Anything applied pre-plant because of our heavy fall rains, because of our cool and prolonged dry winter, and coming out late, that pre-plant really did not survive and the plants did not utilize it. So the stories went this way. Those that went all pre-plant lost yield, lost protein. Those that put a little bit on top dress saw a little bit of an increase and a little bit of improvement, but still probably ended up short-sighted on the nitrogen. Those that went primarily top dress maxed out yield and maxed out quality this year, and it was really that environment, which really gets us back to we need to split apply. We can put some pre down, but we need to be putting some down in the fall and some down in the spring once we understand that weather, and how much, we don't know unless we have an enriched strip.
Well, and talking about that, producers are thinking about the winter crops right now. What do you have for advice for them as they move towards planting?
Okay. So we look at the wheat price and we look at the input cost and everything, you know, that conversation comes back, wheat on a budget. Listening to Dr. Anderson talk about economics, we've really got to be conscious about producing a solid quality crop on our good acres if we're going to make that pay. How's that done? A soil test. That's that soapbox I get on every single year. Take a soil sample, a composite, a zone, a grid, just get that soil sample, find out where you're at, apply enriched strips. I don't care if you use a green seeker sensor or any kind of sensor, put out a strip and follow it. If it turns green and the rest of the field does not, find a way to get nitrogen out on that field. This year our keys are going to be to produce a good quality grain. It's going to be getting your pH right, getting your phosphorus right, and getting your nitrogen right.
Okay, well, and you have information of that on your blog.
On my blog and plenty of fact sheets.
Okay, thank you much, Brian. And for a link to that, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.